Hello, welcome back. This is week 3 of The Vault. For those of you new to the series, since the series is still new, The Vault is where I sit down and I do makeup for a shoot, or I craft or something, and I talk about something that I think is interesting. It can be a video game, it could be a product, it could be an event in history, anything that I think is interesting. And I'm gonna try to mix it up. I'm gonna try not to do all video games. But this week is a video game. It is a video game series that I could talk about for hours and hours and hours and hours. And it's the Fallout series. Now, Fallout's pretty prolific. Most of my first-hand knowledge comes from 3, New Vegas, and 4, because those are the ones that I've played the most. I didn't have great luck with 76. I'm a solo player, and it's hard to do some of the stuff in 76 if you don't have help. And then I had trouble with 1 and 2 because the computer that I was running them on, for some reason I couldn't turn up the brightness well enough to see, so I couldn't actually see what was going on half the time. So those are games that got heavily researched and read about. So, I'm not talking about Fallout in general this week. I actually already recorded this video, but I forgot some very important part that I really wanted to talk about. So this is take 2 of this video, and I'm going to be talking about specifically the vaults. A little bit of history for that. So the vaults are built by a company called Vault-Tec Corporation. I know, I couldn't believe the name either. And they were a pre-war defense corporation, and they managed to nail a U.S. government contract. And the U.S. government wanted them to, in the case of nuclear everything, they wanted Vault-Tec to build a series of underground bunkers to try to protect as much of the American population as possible. Now the deal itself, it was like sketch from day one. So the deal itself was sketchy because the economics in this time period in the game are not great. Like, a dozen donuts is $30, kind of bad. So the US government winds up paying for these vaults with junk bonds. And even then, they only wound up commissioning 122 vaults. That sounds like a lot, right? 122 bunkers, that's more than 2 per state if you want to spread it out like that. But each vault is only designed to hold like a maximum of 2,000 people. So it wound up being something like the vaults would only wind up protecting 0.1% of the American population if the bombs drop. So we're already not off to a great start as far as saving America. And then on top of it, as those of you who've played the games know, Vault-Tec wasn't 100% on the up and up either. So there was a lot of experimentation going on in the vaults, all kinds of varied experiments. And those experiments are what I'm going to talk about today. Now, not all of the vaults were experiments. There were some control vaults. I think there were 17 control vaults that were legitimate, get people in, keep them safe, and they just keep, reproducing until they can open the doors and be on their merry way to the irradiated wasteland. And the timing of the vaults was all different. So most of the vaults were to be closed for a minimum of 25 years. As we're going to find out today, some of those, they either opened early or they were designed to open early. We're going to go through one by one. And the information that I got So I have my little cheat sheet right here. I'm sure you guys have figured out I have a cheat sheet. And this is just the numbered vaults that I could find information on. So if I found a list of vaults, and if there was a vault that I couldn't find any information on the location or the experiment or anything like that, like if it was just like, hey, there was this vault X, I didn't include it. I only tried to include vaults that I could find something interesting about, like something to talk about. And those are the vaults that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start off with Vault 0, which, okay, cool Vault-Tec, Vault 0, real edgy. And Vault 0 wasn't super interesting. Vault 0 basically just existed to observe and control other vaults. There was a couple of like geniuses, scientists, etc., that were put in cryo, and then there were like plans for a robot army. It was a really ambitious vault, did not even have a number, and it was located in Colorado. And I really couldn't find a lot of specifics on it. Just kind of like the vague, like, yeah, you know, we're gonna monitor the vault. We got the cool people here, whatever. So the first vault that I think is actually interesting, not that I don't love all of my vaults equally, I love all my vaults, but Vault 3 is the lowest number vault where I think things get really, really interesting. Now, Vault 3, for those of you who've played New Vegas, you already know where this is gonna go. It was a control vault. It should have been, you know, kind of boring. Like, you know, people come in, they have a good life, they go out. But the people in the control vault in Vault 3 actually liked their situation. They didn't want to leave the vault. They didn't want to open the vault. They were like, we're fine here. We don't know what's out there. We're good here. We have food. We have everything that we need. Keep the doors closed. And for a while, it worked. They actually did really well. It was a successful vault by all definitions. But then things started to suck when there was a water leak. There's a lot of problems with water in these vaults, as those of you who've played some of the games have realized, like water chips break and there's leaks and there's all this shit going on with the water. So Vault 3 was not immune to this. And so they had a water leak, and then the residents realized that they're gonna have to suck it up and deal with opening the vault and, you know, trying to make contact with people so that they can get the stuff they need to fix this vault. Cool, okay, you know, I get the reluctance to do it, but they did it, and they opened the doors to warmly receive a raider group called the Fiends. And Raiders gonna raid, and the Fiends wind up going into the vault, and they just slaughter everybody. Everybody that's in there, dead. And then the Fiends have a new hangout now. So the Fiends wound up taking over this vault, and it's really sad-ish because it would have been a successful control vault, except this happened. So it is technically considered a failure as a vault. Like, I mean, I'm a failure as a daughter. This is beyond that. So that's Vault 3. And like I said, that was in New Vegas. So that's just outside of the New Vegas area in the game. Vault 6 is the next vault that I could find information on. And it was one of the less interesting vaults, but not everyone could be, you know, the dramatic, excellent vaults. And Vault 6 was a vault that allowed small doses of radiation every single day. I don't have an exact measurement on what a small amount is, but small amounts of radiation every day. And for those of you who have not played Fallout, there are these creatures called ghouls in the Fallout universe, and ghouls are irradiated people. Now there's two kinds of ghouls. There are just like regular ghouls. They're like you and me. You know, they have intelligence, they eat, they drink, they do everything that a regular human does, except they're just irradiated. And like their skin is really rough and kind of gross looking. And they call people like you and me smooth skins because they don't have smooth skin. And there's actually a lot of like racism. I don't really want to call it racism, but people are anti-ghoul because humans are assholes like that. So because this guy got radiation and he's got rough skin, like we're gonna be mean to him. There's so much history of that in the Fallout games. The other kind of ghouls are feral ghouls, and they are not so affectionately called zombies. Like they're kind of zombies, but it's radiation, so they're ghouls. And they are just that, feral. They will tear you apart. They like the minute they see you without a second thought. It's rotted their brains. They're not capable of communication or anything like that. And so the people in this vault, because of the radiation, wind up turning into a super, super aggressive pack of feral ghouls. So that I don't know if you consider that a failure. I'm gonna say it's probably a failure. We're gonna go with failure. And that one is located in the Washington area. So the next vault that I want to talk about is Vault 8. Now, Vault 8 was another control vault, and really the interesting part about it was that it was supposed to open after 10 years. Now, remember how I said that most of the vaults were supposed to be closed for at least 25? This one was only supposed to be closed after 10. And then on top of it, they got the all clear signal from Vault-Tec early. So they wound up opening after 2 years. So 2079. The bombs fell October 23rd, 2077. 2079, Vault 8 gets the message to open up. Like, let's go. Let's do this. And they established themselves as Vault City. And this is in northern Nevada. And it is in Fallout 2. So it is considered a success, obviously, because everyone survived and they opened, you know, when they were supposed to without issue. And everyone's good. It's great. It's great. It's awesome. So the next vault is basically the exact opposite. Vault 11 is, this is so messed up of me to say, Vault 11 is actually one of my favorite experimental vaults. And it's in New Vegas, the game, and it's not, as far as location in New Vegas, it's a little bit southeast. You run into it, you don't really run into it, you run by it while you are chasing Benny, and it's near Boulder City, and you have to fight like a whole bunch of ants, giant ants, to get to it. And of course, when you go in, like a lot of the vaults, it's a mess. Like, it is a mess. Furniture turned into, you know, barriers and stuff. And the experiment for Vault 11 was to test the ability to sacrifice oneself for others and to put the greater good above your own personal whatever. So the overseer was not aware of the experiment to the extent that it was going to be. So the vault doors close, and everyone in the vault finds out that they have to sacrifice one person per year to save everybody else in the vault. So they've just made the entire vault complicit in murder once a year. So, of course, I mean, can you imagine that? Like, the bombs drop, you barely escape with your lives, and then you go into this vault and you find out that you have to choose someone to die. So, the overseer of this vault was a good overseer who cared about the people in the vault. And so the overseer volunteered. The overseer decided that they would sacrifice themselves to be the first one, and then that would give everyone that much longer at life. I don't know that I would be able to do that. I would like to think that I would, but I don't know that I could. Well, it turned into a thing where being overseer turned into the overseer is the person who's going to die every year. And when you're walking around in the vault in the game, you see there's all these campaign posters. And it's so weird because a lot of the posters will talk about like how shady this person is, so they should be overseer. What was happening was groups were popping up, like factions were popping up, and they were trying to get, basically they were trying to get their enemies killed. Like, hey, vote for Sally because she's a terrible person, so she should be overseer, so she has to die. And the whole thing turned into a riot. So the vault gets destroyed. They tear it up in the riot, and then I don't remember the number of people that were in the vault, but at the end of the riot and everything, there's 5 people left. Like, can you imagine? Even if it's a vault that holds 1,000 people, you're one of the last 5. You've survived all of these rounds of elections with people getting elected to die, and the 5 people at the end refused to pick someone to die. And when they made their selection, the vault gave them a rewarding message and basically praised them for rising above it all and not sacrificing anyone and everything like that. And then they realized that this whole time they could have said no from the start, and nothing would have happened. They like day one, they could have been like, nope, nope. We're not gonna kill somebody. So these people are horrified, absolutely horrified. And there's a recording that you find in like the entryway, like behind the door, the main door of the vault. And if you listen to it, it's the 5 people that survive, and they can't believe it, and so they decide that they're going to commit suicide. And you hear 4 gunshots, and then you hear a voice like sigh, and you hear the sound of the gun being dropped. And I read somewhere that the survivor is voiced by Steve Bloom, but it's uncredited, so I can't figure out who it is, but I'm pretty sure it's Steve Bloom. It sounds like him. So there's one survivor of Vault 11, and of course it was a failure. The vault is considered a failure. So that one has really good terminal entries. And the story of that one is much better if you read the terminal entries. Like, if you just go through and you see the campaign posters, it's like you can figure out what's going on, but the terminal entries are really, really messed up on that one. And obviously I really love that vault because I've been rambling about it. The next one I want to talk about is Vault 12. And that one was in the first Fallout game, and it's in California, and it is the vault that became Necropolis. So remember how I told you about the 2 different kinds of vaults? So Vault 6 had radiation exposure, and they all turned feral. Well, Vault 12 was designed for the door to not close properly, so radiation came in, and the point was to study the effects of radiation. But that one, everyone became regular ghouls, and they wound up forming Necropolis in this vault. But they abandoned it in 2162. The vault Necropolis was abandoned, but it's still considered a success. So the next vault is, I like to call it the OG vault, because it's literally the first vault that you ever see in a Fallout series, because it is Vault 13, and it is the vault where it's got a mess. It needs a new water chip, because all these vaults have water issues. So the overseer of Vault 13 sends the Vault Dweller, the player character from the first Fallout game, out to go get another water chip. And that is in 2161. So not a full 100 years. And it was supposed to stay closed for 200 years to study the effects of isolation on the residents. So that part, I guess, technically failed because they had to open it early. But the vault wound up emptied. It wound up emptied and abandoned anyway, so. Much later, though. Like, it made it almost the 200 years before everyone abandoned it. And then the next vault is fun because I'm biased. I'm biased about all these. So Vault 15 was in California, and the point of it was to house people with really, like, incredibly different ideologies to try to force stressful interactions. And the residents from this vault wound up forming 3 major raider groups: the Khans, the Vipers, and the Jackals. And then the people who weren't in those raider groups formed Shady Sands. And Shady Sands wound up becoming what we call now, in the later games, the New California Republic. So a pretty crucial vault, really, to the lore of the Fallout games, especially on the West Coast. And it was abandoned and then reoccupied in 2242, and it's in both Fallout and Fallout 2. So it's in 2 games. So like I said, it's pretty crucial. And then, what is the next vault? The next vault is Vault 17. Vault 17 is one of those. I mean, a lot of them are sad with the experiments, but this one was sad because it was, I think it was a control vault. And it was raided in 2155, and it was basically just farmed for the people. And the people were taken, and they were all turned into super mutants, which are, for those of you who don't play the Fallout games, are these giant, like huge, muscular, giant. You can tell they used to be people, but they're so mutated, and they like eat people and stuff like that. And so everyone in this vault was kidnapped and turned into super mutants. And it's mentioned in Fallout New Vegas. I can't find a location where it actually was, but I'm assuming it's going to be like in the Vegas, California area. And the next vault after that is another vault in that area. It's in New Vegas, the game, and it is southwest of New Vegas. And it's almost in Red Rock Canyon, which is where the Great Khans live. I normally come up from the south in the game to get there. And so when you go north on that road, it'll be like on the left is a whole bunch of hills where Deathclaws live. And then on the right is Vault 19. And Vault 19 was... so it was separated like into two groups. It was one vault. It wasn't like two vaults connected. It was one vault, but it was put into two sides, and each side had an overseer, and it was the red side and the blue side. And I'm pretty sure I read somewhere in one of the terminal entries that they deliberately screened the people who were going to go into the vault. They screened them for like predisposition to paranoia and stuff like that. So once the doors were closed, they were pumping subliminal messages into both sides of the vault to create mistrust. And of course that went great, because of course it did. You have a bunch of paranoid people and you are sending them messages about the... yeah. So it wound up erupting like into a civil war, and the vault just collapsed. Like they just wiped each other out. And so that one was a failure, of course. Some of these, I wonder, like, did you really think that that was gonna go well? Like, did you really think that that was gonna go well? Like what, I wonder, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that room. Like, hey, let's do this vault and let's, you know, it'll be great. It'll be great. They'll have a tea party and everything will work out just fucking PG. So the next vault is Vault 21. It is, of course, the vault that you get your jumpsuit number of in Fallout New Vegas. Doc Mitchell gives you a Vault 21 jumpsuit before you leave. And that one was in the middle of what turns into the Strip, the New Vegas Strip. And it's Vault 21. And the goal of Vault 21 is for all conflict to be resolved via gambling chance. And it is a successful vault. There's never any problems because everything is literally left to chance. And the only problem comes when Mr. House decides that he wants this vault. He literally shows up at the vault, participates in a game of chance with who we find out later was Doc Mitchell, wins the vault, fills it with concrete, and opens up a hotel. Literally fills it up with concrete and just says, oh, new hotel. Thanks, guys. Deuces. And that's where we are in Fallout New Vegas. And it's still being run. It's still, you know, there's tons of gamblers when you see it. It's great, right? And I'm pretty sure they expected that one to actually be a failure, and it technically is a success. So, yay! Good job, guys. The next vault was the opposite. It was definitely supposed to be a success, and it so close. It was so close. And it's Vault 22. It's also in Fallout New Vegas. It is slightly northwest of the Strip, and it was to test growing plants without natural light. So they were working on, like, they had, like, top technology, and they were literally trying to figure out if there was a way that they could modify plants to be grown without natural light. And everything went great until somebody decided to fuck around with this experimental fungus that wound up being parasitic, and it can grow in human bodies. So people became infected with it, and it just spread. And the next thing you know, everyone left in the vault is like these spore people, because the people that are left that aren't Spore people take off. They leave the vault, and if you play Honest Hearts and you read all of the Father's cave entries, you find a terminal where he talks about witnessing them leaving Vault 22. And there's definitely some cannibalism and some other sketchy going on. So that one was a complete failure. Which is a shame, because that would have been a really useful experiment to be able to see if they could grow the food like that. But so it goes, right? So Vault 27 is the next vault, and that one was deliberately inhabited by twice as many people as it was built for. It was built for 1,000. They shoved in 2,000. Can't find a location. Can't find if it was a success or not. Could only find that that was the experiment. So, if you know anything about that, post in the comments. Vault 29 is, I don't have a location for it. All I know is that it was supposed to be inhabited by children, no one older than 16, and it's where our buddy Harold comes from. It was kids from affluent families, and the families, like the parents, were all redirected to other vaults. And Howard leaves the vault in 2090, and of course we wind up seeing him across a couple of games, and then ultimately in Fallout 3. He has basically been taken over by his head tree, and now he's just a tree. Vault 34, I'm biased about, because one of my first cosplays was as a boomer. And Vault 34 is where the boomers come from. The door was designed, it closed properly the first time, but if it was ever reopened, it would not close correctly behind whoever left or whoever came in. And the armory was fully stocked, full of weapons, armor, and ammo. But the overseer would not let the residents have it, and they were like, fuck you, give us our guns. And they would not give them their guns, so there was an uprising. A group of people left, and they wound up going to Nellis Air Force Base and becoming the boomers. And then the people that were left in Vault 34 full-on rioted, basically, and they wound up damaging the reactor. There was flooding in the reactor room. And then, of course, the vault became full of radiation, and then all the residents turned into feral ghouls. And that's the state of things when you enter and follow New Vegas. Everyone's ghouls. It's all fucked. The armory is still pretty well stocked, though. At least there's that. Vault 36. So a couple of these vaults I'm going to just blow through because they're not super interesting. Vault 36, the food extruders were designed to only give out like this thin, watery gruel. Don't have a location for it or a success or fail, just that. Vault 39, the original purpose is unknown, but it wound up basically being like Vault 22 with the plant takeover. And that was in Abilene, Texas. And we see that in Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Vault 42, no light bulbs of more than 40 watts were provided. Which, you gotta think about how much that would strain your vision. And I imagine people would get cranky. But I can't find a success or fail on that either, so. Vault 43 was inhabited by 20 men, 10 women, and a panther. For good measure. Why not? A panther. A fucking panther. Yeah. After Vault 43, we have Vault 51. And this is, of course, the vault from the Nuclear Winter add-on for 76. It's inhabited by 52 people. You know, they gotta figure out who the best candidate for Overseer is, and it turned into a all unqualified shitty candidates have to die. So of course it turns into a giant giant just slaughter fest. And then of course at the end there's one person standing and then the overseer. And that's in West Virginia, Appalachia area, because it's in Fallout 76. Vault 53 was in Fallout 3 concept art, but it obviously didn't make it into the game. And that one was where the equipment was designed to break down every couple of months to stress out the inhabitants. And then they would test the effects of the stress on the inhabitants. Vault 55, the entertainment tapes were removed. So no external entertainment, just, you know, games or whatever. Vault 56, the entertainment tapes were removed except for that of one particularly bad comic. And the sociologists who designed the experiments expected that 56 would fail before 55. That's probably what I would have guessed too. Vault 65 was a cut vault from Fallout 76. I can't find any information on it, but apparently there is, in the game files, there's a file for a trunk. Ooh, that's cool. Vault 68, out of the 1,000 people who entered, only one was a woman. Vault 69, out of the 1,000 people who entered, only one was a man. Vault 70, all of the jumpsuit extruders were designed to fail after 6 months, and the vault was inhabited mostly by Mormons. They wound up leaving the vault, and they formed the town of New Canaan. So that was, I guess, technically a success. I don't know. Vault 75. Yeah. Vault 75 was kind of like Vault 29. So it, you know, everyone comes in the day of, you know, when everyone comes in from the bombs, and they separate the kids from the adults and immediately massacre the adults. So nobody over 18 is in this vault except for the science team. They put these kids through like these terrible, rigorous tests, basically torturing them to figure out if there's a way to promote, like to get genetically stronger people who can deal with the wasteland better. And of course, even when the subjects turn 18, they're killed and burned. But they tell the rest of the kids that they graduated and they left the vault. And if somebody's physical test scores are low, but if they have like good, if they're super intelligent, then they can graduate to the science team. And of course, they're separated from the rest of the kids. So, you know, nobody can set anybody off. Nobody can alert them. Vault 76 is from Fallout 76. It's a control vault, but it's a little unique because it opened after, I think, 20 years. And the overseer was supposed to, like, secure missile silos for Vault-Tec. Weirdest control vault ever. It opens, and then the vault is designed to be uninhabitable after 24 hours because Vault-Tec didn't want the residents becoming dependent on it. Vault 77, we don't see it in any game, but we do see a vault jumpsuit in Paradise Falls and Fallout 3. That was the vault that was inhabited by a man in a crate of puppets. Man assassinates one of the puppets, loses his mind, leaves. We find a tape about it, and we find the jumpsuit. Straightforward. Vault 79 was constructed to store gold from Fort Knox for future use. It was constructed in secret in collaboration with the U.S. government. Like, I guess, more secret than the rest of the... And they had, like, literal soldiers guarding the entrance. And then, of course, there was a reactor issue, and then... radiation and ghouls. So that one is in Fallout 76. It's in the Savage Divide, which I'm assuming is aptly named, and it is still active. Vault 81, of course, is in Boston. It's in Fallout 4, and that is the one where they were supposed to test disease treatments and antibodies and potential mutations from radiation. The one it's full of mole rats that they experiment on. And it was two sides for the vault. There was Vault 81, and then there was the secret vault where the scientists were. But the overseer figured out what the experiment was, and she basically shut it down before they even started. She literally shut it down. She locked them in their side of the vault because she was not going to have her people tested on and then just like thrown in an incinerator. So she locked out the science team and wound up saving everyone in the vault because she wouldn't allow the experiment to run. That's a good overseer. That's how the overseer should be. Yeah. So as of, I think the game takes place in 2287. Vault is still active. People still live in it. It's a nice little like settlement basically. And you even wind up getting a swanky little apartment if you help Austin. Vault 84, I had never heard of. It apparently is in the Fallout board game, which I did not know was a thing. So I need this board game now. Like, I would love a Fallout board game. And that one was, they had elections every year to evict one resident for being a traitor. So it seems kind of like Vault 11 to me with I'm sure that's how it went anyway. I can't find a location for it, and I can't find an end result for it. And then the next vault is Vault 87. As I paint my face green. Vault 87. It was a testing site for the forced evolutionary virus, which is basically what it sounds like. And it is where the super mutants from Fallout 3 come from. The scientists took the residents and basically locked them in rooms and then just tested infected them with the virus just to see what would happen. And then they had the creatures, the super mutants for it. And that one is a failure, obviously. And that's the one that you have to go to find the Gek in Fallout 3. And of course you have to go through Little Lamplight. Talk to McCready. Vault 88 is the vault from the Vault-Tec Workshop for Fallout 4. It's incomplete at the time the bombs drop, and it's supposed to test prototype equipment to potentially be used in other vaults. And it's where you test like the exercise bike, the soda machine, the gambling machine, and then it's where basically they give you like one of every enemy that you have to kill, and then you can build the vault. I've spent entirely too much time building my vaults. The next vault is Vault 92, and this one's in Fallout 3. It's the one that's inhabited by musicians, and they use like a white noise system to give them like suggestive combat ideas, like subliminal messaging. And of course they wind up all slowly losing their minds if you read the terminal entries. And they all get aggressive, and then they clash with security, and then everybody dies. Shocker, everybody dies. It's Fallout. Vault 94. When I read the concept for this one, I laughed because I knew how this was going to go before I finished reading about it. It is Fallout 76 Vault, and it was founded on the principles of faith and nonviolence and, living with nature and being peaceful. And they open after a year, only a year, just really fast. And they were immediately attacked by suspicious wastelanders. So they basically disproved what they were trying to prove. And of course that one's in West Virginia because it's in 76. It's in the Appalachia. There we go. Vault 95. Vault 95. So Vault 95 was built for and inhabited by addicts. It was all addicts except for one Vault-Tec plant. And they would do group like therapy sessions, and they would talk it out, and they had a machine actually to kill addiction that Kate wants you to take her to, and then she's an insufferable bitch every time you drink or take a chem around her. And so the Vault-Tec plant finds a stash of chems after 5 years. Within a week, everyone has relapsed, and they're all just killing you. They wipe each other out, and it's a complete failure. Vault. This one I have to really read because it took me a couple times to figure out what they were talking about. So it was constructed by Vault-Tec for ecosystem reconstruction, restoration, whatever. And it had frozen embryos, and the embryos constituted a carefully chosen, fully complete ecosystem referred to as core fauna with enough material for 112 releases. And there was robotic plant keepers and everything like that. Can't find if it was a success or failure. I don't know if it's a decision that you have to make, maybe. In the game, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. Vault 101, where no one ever enters and no one ever leaves. So they joke that you never forget your first doctor. I say you never forget your first vault. And Fallout 3 was the first Fallout game that I played. So Vault 101 was my first vault. It is designed to not ever open and to test a dictator of an overseer with a closed community. And that one is because there's a decision that you have to make regarding that vault, so it's not necessarily a success or a fail. If you want Butch to be a companion, you have to sabotage the air system, which if you're playing for karma, that it's a super, super evil act, and it will tank your karma. I'm sure, there's ways that you can balance it out with other activities, but yeah. So that one's not a success or a failure until you decide that. And Vault 106 is really very close to Vault 101, and that is the one that makes you hate the color purple, because it pumps a odorless, colorless, but not colorless because it's purple, gas through the air filtration system. And that started 10 days after it opened, and everyone starts hallucinating because of this gas, and they get violent, and then they all kill each other. Shocker. Now, Vault 108 is another complicated vault. It wasn't just one experiment. So the first overseer of that vault has cancer going into it. So he had a life expectancy of 2 more years. And so he's supposed to die of cancer after 40 months. And then the power supply is supposed to malfunction. And then the backup was insufficient. And then the armory was overstocked. And then there was no entertainment tapes. And then they decide to fuck around with cloning. It was like a hot fucking mess of a vault. And when they were doing the cloning, the only clones that wound up succeeding were clones of this really aggressive guy named Gary. So the only people who are left in this vault, by the time you find it, are all Garys. And their sole purpose in life is to fuck up your day and kill you. And that's how you find it in Fallout 3. And that's in the northeast corner of the map. And 106 is right near 101. So then there's Vault 109, which is another one of those vaults. It's apparently in this board game that I didn't know existed, and now I need because it's Fallout. And I couldn't really find any information on this vault, except for the fact that it's full of, like, high-end items, like high-end clothing, high-end items from these, like, really fashionable high-end stores, designers, etc. I can't find why it's in there. I have no idea why it's in there, or why it's filled with radiation. But it's in the Fallout board game. So Vault 111 is, of course, what I call the player vault of Fallout 4. And that is a cryo facility. And it is to test the effects of cryostasis on unsuspecting residents. Of course, Fallout 4, it's in Boston. And it has a number of unfrozen residents. And of course, they're all like security and science staff. But there's a mutiny of the security staff. And then the residents wind up still frozen, just hanging out on their own with no one to watch them. And then Kellogg shows up in 2227 to get Sean for the untainted genes, basically, for the Institute. And, of course, he unfreezes everyone to get the kid. And then when he tries to reinitialize the cryo, it doesn't work. And then everyone winds up suffocating except for you. So, sole survivor. So that vault obviously was a complete fucking failure. Obviously. So Vault 112 is one of those, like, it's so messed up you can't help but love it. And Vault 112 is not inhabited by a lot of people, but it's where Dr. Stanislaus Braun is hanging out. Fucking asshole. And he has all of the residents in suspended animation. And basically, they are living in a virtual reality simulator. So he keeps coming up with different environments. So there's like a ski lodge and everything like that. And he is just playing it all like it's a giant video game, and he just keeps killing them over and over again. And then when one scenario gets boring, he does another one, and another one, and another one. So anyway, so the Lone Wanderer has to go there because Dad is there. Where's my powder? There's my powder. And then you wind up getting plugged into it, and then you have to play through the simulator and try to beat this guy with this the failsafe that mimics Chinese invasion, and then you kill everybody, but it's considered good karma because you're freeing them from the personal hell that he has them living in. And then this is in the Capital Wasteland. I think it's in Virginia. Is it Virginia? I'm trying to think where it is in relation to. Yeah, it's got to be in Virginia. Vault 114. I don't know how the fuck Vault 114 was ever supposed to work, because they built it into a subway station. Like, even the triggermen that are in it are like, this is not gonna, why this would never work. And what Vault 114 was gonna do was it was gonna take, like, wealthy, important people, and it promised them it was gonna be super luxurious, and every need would be met, and in reality, it was going to be a shithole. And all these people used to luxury were going to be like multiple family to a room, bathrooms with no doors, kind of like just really disenfranchised conditions. And all the residents were supposed to be like politicians and the wealthy elite, except for the overseer was supposed to be somebody like with problems with authority, who was supposed to deliberately put them in situations that would make them uncomfortable. Like, on purpose. But it never got finished, so it's not a failure or a success because it never existed, technically. And it's obviously, if you played the game, it's also where you go get Nick Valentine, Grandpa Nick, Grandpa Robot. There we go. And then Vault 118 is also Fallout 4. And it's the one that is in the hotel in Point Lookout. Point Lookout, Far Harbor. The joke is that they're basically the same. It's somebody is like, oh, go find my daughter. My daughter is missing. So you have to take this boat to this. Well, in Point Lookout, it's Maryland, I think. And then in Fallout 4, it is Maine. And you gotta go find the daughter, and there's a cult, and you have to go through this trippy experience with this cult. Fucking. And so Vault 118 was supposed to be like a 2-part vault. It was supposed to have 2 sides. One side was going to be very wealthy, prestigious people. Like, there's velvet curtains when you go through, and it's supposed to be like super classy and nice. And then the other side of the vault was supposed to be for lower class, poorer people, but they never finished that side of the vault. They only finished the upscale version side. And then all of the residents on that side wind up putting their brains into robo-brains to outlast the Great War. And it left only the overseer as a completed person, like a complete human being. And then the overseer wound up killing themselves. The experiment never started. And then you have to solve like a murder mystery when you show up. It's just, yeah. Oh boy, here we go, glitter. And then, so Vault 120 is disappointing to me. Because this is going to be a pain in the butt. I don't know what the purpose is. I can't find the purpose. All I can find is that it was supposed to be underwater, which I've wanted since I started playing the games. I'm like, God, I wish we could have an underwater vault. How cool would that be? It's just in it's in cut content for both Fallout 4 and Vault 76. Like, twice we almost had this vault. And then, now we don't. And it was going to have an airlock, a research station, and an area known as Stellwagen Gorge. So, the last vault that I'm going to talk about is Vault 121. And there's really not anything significant about this vault. But something bugs me because it was originally supposed to be where Vault 95 is. So they had a vault, they had 121 there, but then they not only did they cut it, but they replaced it with another vault. So I don't know if 121 is planned to be in another game or what's going on with that, but they had a vault there and then cut it during the development of Fallout 4, and then they replaced it with 95. I don't know, I couldn't find anything about, like, if there was an experiment for it or anything like that. I literally just know that it got replaced by 95. I don't know. Who knows what Bethesda does? So, this has been my vault video on the vaults. And this is I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. So this has been my vault video on vaults, and I'm super excited that you joined me for it. Next week is not gonna be a video game. It's gonna be on something pretty important that's going on. I hope to see you next week. Thank you for joining me this week and the last 2 weeks, and I hope that I keep making videos that you enjoy. Have a good day. I hope you rock it.